Hey friends, this is Bailey. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about dark academia meets witchcraft. A very, very niche subgenre that I felt like we should explore a bit more. Now this is inspired by A Discovery of Witches. Discovery of Witches has been on AMC. I think you could get an Paramount Plus subscription to watch it. I can't remember. I've seen it 2 times. I'm on my 3rd time. It's such a comfort watch. But it's based on a book that came out in 2011 called A Discovery of Witches. It's actually a trilogy called the All Souls trilogy, written by Deborah Harkness. Now, this is where it gets a little nerdy. Deborah Harkness, I applied to work with her, and of course, look at me now. I didn't get it. I didn't even get an email back from her, which is fine. I'm still a fan, don't worry. But Deborah Harkness is a professor of history and teaches European history and the history of science at the University of Southern California. She has published 2 works of historical nonfiction, John Dee's Conversations with Angels, Kabbalah, Alchemy, and the End of Nature, and The Jewel House, Elizabethan London and the Scientific Revolution. I wanted to give you a brief description of Deborah Harkness and, her being a professor, because she teaches classes about the history of alchemy. It's not just her basic science classes. It's about magic and science. She even has a class about magic versus science, or the last time I checked, it was very much steeped in the history of magic as a whole. So when she came out with a fictional trilogy, that makes sense because she has done her research. So there are a lot of things, how do I describe this? There's a lot of organizations, mystery cults, especially in Elizabethan London or Elizabethan England, that she knew about because she's done so much research, and it comes through in the trilogy. It also comes through in the main character. Let me tell you a little bit about A Discovery of Witches. A Discovery of Witches follows, the synopsis says, deep in the stacks of Oxford's Bodleian Library, young scholar Diana Bishop unwittingly calls up a bewitched alchemical manuscript in the course of her research. Descended from an old and distinguished line of witches, Diana wants nothing to do with sorcery. So after a furtive glance and few notes, she banishes the book back to the stacks. But her discovery sets a fantastical underworld stirring, and a horde of demons, witches, and vampires soon descends upon the library. Diana has stumbled upon a coveted treasure lost for centuries, and she's the only creature who can break its spell. So we have witches, we have vampires, and demons. Daemons. The TV series does something kind of interesting with them. It makes them kind of seem like just they're on the spectrum and that they specialize in really niche things. So anyways, you've got 3 different types of creatures coexisting in the world. And there's a congregation and there's certain rules. There's a covenant where you are not allowed to interbreed. A vampire is not allowed to fall in love with a demon, for example. Diana Bishop is in trouble because her powers somehow brought up this book that people have been looking for literally centuries. And so people are following her around, and she meets this professor who is a vampire, and he's into the science of genes. He studies genetics. We find out later that obviously it has to do with, witches, demons, and vampires. Yeah, there's a romance brewing. You can watch the trailer. I did not give you any spoilers. So this is very much paranormal romance for sure is in here, but also dark academia meets witchcraft. I have thousands of books in my apartment about witchcraft. So this is not a, if you like A Discovery of Witches, you should read these witchcraft books. This is just very dark academia meets witchcraft. And I was really hoping that we could start getting the comments going and see if there's other books that are out there that we might not know of. Because I actually have like a kind of rare-ish one to suggest for us. So the TV series is now on Netflix, and that's why I'm super excited to do this. And I was like, we got to do this week because, yeah, it's fun. It's very cheesy. It stars, it stars Matthew Good, Teresa Palmer, Alex Kingston, and it came out in 2018. It's super cheesy. I mean, it's like, it's actually cheesier than Practical Magic. But I love the actual, and they like make everything very, very modern. Like the congregation texts each other and stuff. I didn't like that. That's not in the books. But I love the tone, the actual color tone, the color palette that they use for the TV series. It's really neat. So it adds like a darker side to the dark academia. You know, Diana Bishop is in Oxford, and so is Matthew. A lot of this occurs in like libraries and studying manuscripts and studying in general. Let's get into it a little bit. The first book I have to suggest to you is The Ninth House by Leah Bardugo. This is an Alex Stern book. It's got really, really good reviews. I'll admit I did not enjoy it. However, everyone on booktube and booktok did. So maybe it doesn't matter what I think. This one came out in 2009. It says, Galaxy Alex Stern is the most unlikely member of Yale's freshman class. Raised in the Los Angeles hinterlands by a hippie mom, Alex dropped out of school early and into a world of shady drug dealer boyfriends, dead-end jobs, and much worse. Sorry, I worked all day. By age 20, in fact, she is the sole survivor of a horrific, unsolved, multiple homicide. Some might say she's thrown her life away, but at her hospital bed, Alex is offered a second chance to attend one of the world's most elite universities on a full ride. What's the catch and why her? Still searching for answers to this herself, Alex arrives in New Haven, tasked by her mysterious benefactors with monitoring the activities of Yale's secret societies. These 8 windowless tombs are well known to be haunts of the future rich and powerful, from high-ranking politicos to Wall Street and Hollywood's biggest players. But their occult activities are revealed to be more sinister and more extraordinary than any paranoid imagination might conceive. It's really interesting that the synopsis doesn't state. Alex Stern has special abilities where she can make sure that ghosts don't come too close to like these cults. They tell you right away in the book, so I'm not sure why that's not in the synopsis. There is obviously magic in here. There's paranormal. There's dark academia. And I believe, yeah, this is number 1 in a series. I don't know if it's a trilogy or just 2, whatever. I wasn't a huge fan, but if that sounds interesting to you, go for it. Now, again, I don't want this to be, these are all of the books about witchcraft that you could read. I could do a video about that because I have like bookcases full, but I wanted to, I don't know, recommend 2 books to you that could make you feel like Diana Bishop in Oxford, okay? Actually, I have 3 books. The first one is The Book of Magic. This is the Penguin Black classic, From Antiquity to the Enlightenment. It's an anthology of the Western magical tradition, stretching from its roots to the wizardry of the Old Testament and the rituals of the ancient world, through writers such as Thomas Aquinas, John Milton, John Dee, Matthew Hopkins, and up to the tangled arcane beginnings of the scientific revolution. Arranged historically with commentary, this book includes incantations, charms, curses, golems, demons and witches, as well as astrology, divination, and alchemy, with some ancient and medieval works which were once viewed as too dangerous even to open. So this is definitely something, these works are definitely something that Diana Bishop would have known about. And probably a lot of these works are what Deborah Harkness uses in her class. Okay, see what I'm thinking here? The other book would be Magic by Chris Gostin. And this is A History from Alchemy to Witchcraft, from the Ice Age to the present. It says 3 great strands of belief run through human history. Religion is the relationship with one god or many gods, masters of our lives and destinies. Science distances us from the world, turning us into observers and collectors of knowledge. And magic is direct human participation in the universe. We have influence of the world around us, and the world has influence on us. Over the last few centuries, magic has developed a bad reputation thanks to the unsavory tactics of shady practitioners and to a successful propaganda campaign on the part of religion and science, which denigrated magic as backward, irrational, and primitive. In Magic, A History, the Oxford professor of archaeology, Chris Gostin, restores magic to its essential place in the story of humankind, revealing it to be an enduring element of human behavior that plays an important role for individuals and cultures. Drawing on decades of research touching on the first known horoscope, a statue ordered into exile, and the mystical power of tattoos, Gostin shows what magic can offer us today and how we might use it to rethink our relationship with the world. I haven't read it yet, but it's been on my shelves for a little while. It should be up there on the TBR. The other book I wanted to recommend, this nonfiction book, this is the last nonfiction book for this series, is Alchemy and Mysticism by Alexander Robe. It's put out by Taschen, I believe is how you pronounce it. This was first published in 2014. This book actually is in the TV series. I had this on my list to recommend before rewatching the TV series, and I was like, oh, cool. So this is definitely something that Diana Bishop knows about. And also the book is like borrowed from the library from a demon. So it says the Hermetic Museum takes readers on a magical mystery tour spanning an arc from the medieval cosmogram and the images of Christian mysticism through the fascinating world of alchemy to the art of the Romantic era. The enigmatic hieroglyphs of Kabbalists, Rosicrucians, and Freemasons are shown to be closely linked with the early scientific illustrations in the fields of medicine, chemistry, optics, and color theory. Even for those with no knowledge of the fascinating history of alchemy, this book is a delight to explore. Each richly illustrated chapter begins with the introduction and quotes from alchemists by specialist Alexander Robe. The roots of surrealism and many other recent artistic movements can be found in this treasure trove. It's a kind of small book, but it's meaty, and it's for sale right now on Taschen, just to let you know. Okay, so that's it for nonfiction. We're gonna move to fiction. So I did Ninth House, that's fiction, sorry, forgot to mention that. So I only have 3 fiction recommendations. That's why we need to like open up discussion under here. Besides, obviously, reading Discovery of Witches. The book series is so much better than the TV series, even though the TV series is good too. Okay. The first one is The Physic Book of Deliverance Dane by Catherine Howe. I have read this twice, but I need to read the back to you because it's been a while. Salem, Massachusetts, 1681. Fear and suspicion lead a small town to unspeakable acts. Marblehead, Massachusetts, 1991. A young woman is about to discover that she is tied to Salem in ways she never imagined. Wow, that's all it says. Okay, well, I'll let you know. I'll let you know what it's about. Okay, so wow, that synopsis really sucks. So this main character, a relative dies, I believe a relative dies, and she moves to the New England town and stays in her, I think it's like her aunt or something, like an estranged, someone that she didn't really know. And she moves to Massachusetts, where she's in the house, but she's also like getting her PhD or something, and it has to do with like old manuscripts. Something very similar is going on. She is definitely getting her master's or PhD. They never say masters in books or movies, so let's just say that she's getting her PhD. And this like weird cottage is like stinky. There's weird stuff here and there. She hears stories around town about like witchcraft, and she discovers this like diary, this physic book, which would be like a grimoire type thing. And it's throwing her back to the Salem witch trials. I'm not going to say much more than that, besides there is like a subplot of romance in this one. It's really, really, really good. The like timeline jumps aren't too much. The fluidity of the plot is pretty easy. Like, I would actually say this is a kind of a beach ready type book, if that makes sense. So pick this one up for sure. The other book I wanted to mention, and the last book, is The Fate Weaver by Jill M. Phillips, a novel of 2 centuries. So this has a much better synopsis here. It's even continued on the back flap. I want to see when this is published because I bought this secondhand and it was like, okay, 1982. I remember liking this, but it also being a little freaky. So let me read this to you. When American novelist Joanna Latimer visits the tiny English village of St. Audric, she doesn't know that something evil lives there, a secret many centuries old. Even the cryptic letter of invitation which brought her there, a letter no one will admit writing, is not enough to warn Joanna of the terror that awaits. Seances, ghostly sightings in the churchyard, and a name on a gravestone revealing a terrible truth about Joanna's own past and her ties to the village. St. Audric's curious history dates to 1349, when bubonic plague ravaged the surrounding countryside, killing 2/3 of the population and hastening the Age of Faith to a close. Involved in research for the novel set during this time, Joanna systematically uncovers the dark secrets of St. Audric's past, the 14th century abbot, a convert to pagan magic, who drew his French mistresses into a shocking ritual to propitiate the old gods, an Elizabethan courtier who turned a ruined abbey into a place of incest and human sacrifice, and a modern-day lord of the manor whose knowledge of Joanna's past brings her face to face with a malevolent truth and a fate which has awaited her since birth. Yeah, it's I would say this is darker. It's definitely darker than like the Physic Book of Deliverance Dane. Probably just as dark as the Ninth House, but in a different way. And the dark academia comes because this is a novelist and she's like heavy into researching. So she'll be at the library. She'll be like, it's actually a very dark academia. It doesn't really talk much about school, but I promise you, it fits into the genre. So that's it for now. What I'm looking for in the comments, so that we can have more of like a catalog going here, is something that's more modern day. So there's a ton of witchcraft books out there. Fine. There's a ton of witchcraft books out there that are fiction, that are about witches studying witchcraft. Fine. I'm looking for like more modern day, like in Oxford, in Yale, in, you know, these like universities that we know of and that have been published from like maybe the 90s on. Okay? Just like fitting into like this category, contemporary. See if we can do this. So if you liked A Discovery of Witches, or if you've never read A Discovery of Witches, do so now, please, and then watch the TV series. That romance is top notch. I will say, just as like an in caveat, is that there is a plot device within the All Souls trilogy, so all 3 books. There's a plot device that Deborah Harkness kind of like gives up on, and so I do understand the bad ratings, but also it's like we can get over it kind of thing. Okay? All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the impromptu-ness and being all over the place, but I was so excited when I saw this TV show on that I had to tell you about it, and I had to tell you what other books there are out there that you can read. Okay, talk to you later.